Hi all. Today I'll tell you briefly about the magic battle anime. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The story of the anime begins with a student named Itadori Yuji and his friends sitting and playing in the occult club at his school. At the same time, another magician in search of a special cursed object sees demons on the school playground. Itadori and the magician collide, and the magician feels in him cursed energy. Meanwhile, Itadori goes to visit his grandfather. Grandfather gives him instructions and tells him to help people, and at the same moment dies. An exorcist trainee from the School of Magic named Fushiguro visits Itadori right in the hospital and warns what is in his hands. There is a very dangerous relic and asks to give it to him before it's too late. Itadori admits that he found it, but will not give it back because now his classmates are going to remove the seal from the relic. Itadori and the exorcist rush to school. Meanwhile, the girl and the guy break the seal and see a human finger. They are suddenly attacked by monsters, and the exorcist tells Itadori to stay outside, so as not to endanger himself. One of his friends is eaten by the monster, and the exorcist starts fighting with curses. Itadori rushes in and breaks the curse, thus saving his friends. The exorcist finishes off the curse, and wonders how Itadori can't see them, because ordinary people do not see the curse, except for people who are not afraid of their fears. All of a sudden a curse appears from the ceiling. Grabs the exorcist and throws him against the wall. Itadori decides to protect him and eats the cursed finger. Itadori becomes possessed by the curse, and Fushiguro decides to exorcise him. But at that moment a teacher at the School of Magic appears and confesses that his superiors sent him to settle things with cursed artifact. Itadori admits that he ate a cursed item. A teacher named Goho Satoru asks Itadori to exchange for 10 seconds with a curse named Sukuna, whose finger he ate, and he agrees. Sukuna attacks Goho, and then the fight begins. Goho neutralizes Itadori with action of 2 fingers, and he falls into his arms. Goho informs Itadori that the magical laws require him to be executed. However, he succeeded in denigrating the verdict. Goho explains that the demon Sukuna once had 4 arms, and because he was too strong a curse on his body parts could not be destroyed. Goho suggested that the authorities let Itadori eat all 20 of Sukuna's fingers, and only then execute him to kill Sukuna in Itadori's body. The next day, Itadori comes to visit his friend who is in a coma due to a curse. Another friend sits next to him, and Itadori explains why the monster attacked them, then says goodbye and leaves. Teacher Goho gives Itadori Sukuna's second finger and looks at his reaction. He notices that he has a talent that has not been there for 1,000 years, and that it is not only in physical form, but also in spiritual form. Itadori decides to eat all the fingers of the Sukuna demon and become a vessel. He also decides how to meet end of his life. Fushiguro appears, and they travel to Tokyo, where Itadori enters the magic school where Fushiguro is also studying. Itadori visits his grandfather's grave for the last time and goes to school. From Itadori's body, speaks Sukuna and threatens Goho to destroy him. Goho reveals that Sukuna was a cruel fictional god with 4 arms and 2 faces, and that he was actually a real person who lived more 1,000 years ago, the real king of curses. Itadori comes to an interview, and sees the director who makes soft toys. The director asks Itadori what he will do next with his life. Itadori does not pass the interview, and the director decides to set his dolls on him. Impregnated with his curse, dolls attack Itadori. The director wants to hear a decent answer, and therefore will torture him until he hears the answer. The director asks Itadori again why he came to a magic school, and Itadori decides to live a life without regrets, and that he wants to save the plague from curses. Goho explains that the fingers are not easy to find. Each finger has a different aura. Some are suppressive, and others are secretive, and that some have already been absorbed by the cursed spirits. Now Sukuna in Itadori's body will want to return his fingers, and therefore Itadori turns into a kind of radar for artifacts. Goho informs Itadori and Fushiguro, who turns out to be a neighbor, that tomorrow they will go to meet the 3rd freshman. They meet a girl named Kujisaki Nabar, and she becomes their last classmate. All 4 of them go to the cursed place. Goho sends Nabar and Itadori on a mission. However, Itadori has no magical powers, and Goho assures him that he has cursed energy flowing through him, and that he himself is half curse, but still gives him a weapon with cursed energy. They enter the building. Goho says that this time they are testing Nabar and not Itadori. Suddenly Itadori is attacked by a curse and fights and kills him. Nabar finds the curse and uses her weapon to lure him out. Goho explains how curses are born, and says that there are more of them in Tokyo, because the number of population in the city is more than in the village. and that the power of curses in Tokyo is not the same as in the village. Nobara continues to fight with the curse, and suddenly sees the child. He is held hostage by the curse. Nobara surrenders, but Itadori appears and cuts the hand of the curse and saves the child. The curse escapes, and Nobara uses her special voodoo doll technique and kills the curse. They bring the child home, and the teacher decides to treat his students. The next day, they go on a mission where they need to destroy the curses in prison. They are informed that 5 people could not be evacuated, and Itadori, Fushiguro and Nobara go on a mission. However, there is a special level enemy in the building that cannot even be killed with heavy artillery, and that only the teacher Goho is suitable for such an opponent, that is, the most powerful magician in the academy, who is on a business trip, and therefore no one is stronger at the academy, and because of this they were sent on a mission. But they were sent not to fight, but for the purpose of evacuation of people. However, they are warned not to get into a fight with a special level curse, because they will die. The guys enter the building and are horrified by what the building has turned into. Because of the strong curse, the space changes, and the door behind disappears. The guys go further. Itadori and Fushiguro quarreled, and Nobara decides to intervene, but she is sucked into a black hole. The guys decide to escape, but a special curse appears behind them. Itadori grabs a knife and swings at the enemy. However, the enemy throws the knife away, along with Itadori's severed right arm. At the same time, Nobara ends up in a room with a lot of curses. Itadori tells Fushiguro to find Nobara, and that he wants to awaken Sukuna and deal with the curse. The fight starts and Itadori loses, but he hears the howl of the Fushiguro wolf, and gives the body to Sukuna's control. Sukuna wants to annoy Itadori. However, another monster interferes him, and he decides to kill him first. Sukuna uses a special technique called territory expansion, and cuts the curse into pieces, and removes his finger from the curse. Sukuna calls Itadori to take back control of the body, but Itadori does not answer. Fushiguro meets with Sukuna. Sukuna rips out the heart of Itadori, so that he can't return because he would die. Fushiguro begins to fight with the enemy, and uses all his magical creatures to fight him. Sukuna hits him, and Fushiguro decides to call the creatures away. Sukuna is interested in his technique, and Fushiguro wants to use a special technique against Sukuna. However, Itadori comes to his senses, but falls to the ground of unconsciousness and dies. The next day, all his friends and acquaintances are sad. Fushiguro and Nobara meet second-year students, among whom there is a spellcaster, a panda and a girl who owns weapons best of all. They came to inform that a competition between the two schools awaits them, and that they came to train them. It turns out that Itadori is not dead, but is in the subconscious of Sukuna. Sukuna offers 2 conditions for which if Itadori agrees, he will bring him back to life. Sukuna revives Itadori. Meanwhile, unknown curses are preparing to get the strongest magician into their hands, and set fire to innocent people nearby. Meanwhile, the students are preparing with might and main for competition. Itadori and Goho, meanwhile, train themselves away from everyone in order for Itadori to learn to control his cursed energy. Itadori remembers that he had already used the cursed energy, and tries to use it again. However, Goho claims that at that time, he was overwhelmed with negative emotions, such as fear and anger, so he was able to use the cursed energy. Also, Goho says that all magicians learn to collect cursed energy by drawing it out of a surge of overwhelmed emotions, and also learn how to save it. He tells Itadori that he will learn in the most exhausting way, namely by watching movies, from boring to interesting, and gives a dull gift from the director. But if you don't pour enough energy into it, then it will attack, and so the training started. The task is to watch all the films without letting the cursed doll awaken. At the end, Goho asks Itadori if Sukuna offered something as a contract, to which Itadori replies that he felt that there was something like that, but he doesn't remember anything. Goho is going to meet with director, but stops halfway and is attacked by a curse. Goho notes that this is an advanced level curse. The curse continues to attack more and more, and Goho shows his infinite energy techniques. Goho continues to attack the curse and throws him into the water. Goho in a split second leads along with Itadori to show a special technique called territory expansion. The enemy uses this technique, and everything around is transformed into a completely different area. Using the curse energy filled with techniques, during this ability, attacks are intensified. Then Goho decides to use his expansion of the territory called Endless Tired. The attempt on Goju fails, and they return to reality. Goho asks the curse to send him to kill him, but at that moment, another curse saves him and leaves. Goho tells Itadori to learn how to defeat such curses. The curses meet and discuss a further plan how to seal Goho Satoru, and not give him a chance to save humanity. Meanwhile, Fushiguro and Kujisaki meet 3 students from another academy who want to fight them. An upperclassman named Tadu attacks and beats Fushiguro. However, they are stopped by the second-year students, and take their first years back to the academy. Maki admits that she can't see the curse without her glasses, and that her twin sister can only put the cursed energy into weapons. Meanwhile, Goho meets with the headmaster of Kyoto Academy. Goho reveals that he was attacked by the curse last night, and claims that the past events make sense, and that the elders only delayed the moment of the inevitable. A month later, the cinema staff discovered 3 mutilated corpses of the schoolboys. Itadori and another magician are investigating this case. At the time of watching the movie, the schoolboy saw how 3 of his classmates turned into monsters. Nanami, the office detective magician, explains that magicians feel traces of cursed energy and can track it. They meet curses on the roof, and Nanami quickly deals with the first curse. Itadori accumulates all his cursed energy and hits the curse. Nanami notices that they were not actually fighting curses, but people who were turned and mutilated into curses. The doctor also notices that some parts of the bodies are deformed, and that if you intervene in the brain, you can force the victim to use the cursed energy. Nanami finds out that this was an attempt to replace them with a trap. The next day, Nanami continues to investigate, and tells Itadori to find a guy named Junpei who was in the session at that very moment when incident happened. That's all for today. If you want a continuation, please let me know in the comments below, and what anime recap you would like to hear next. Thank you for watching. I will be very grateful if you like the video and subscribe to the channel.